Hi guys, welcome to day one of Allotment Days. My name's Mike and this is my allotment. Um, this in fact was the first allotment that I took on back in 2014. It's about 70 feet long and about 35 feet wide. As you can see, the season's not really yet started and we've just got the remnants of last year with about half a dozen Brussels sprouts plants, and we've still got some leeks in the ground. It's hard to imagine now, looking at the plot, just how green it was in the middle of last year. It was like a jungle, about 2 metres high, with sweet corn, beans, lots of brassicas, dahlias at the front here at both sides, so you had a nice view of the allotment when you approached it. Quite passionate about my allotment, and it became quite clear early on that one wasn't going to be enough, so started with plot 5A, and then in the middle of last year took on the adjacent plot 6A and a half plot next to it, 7A. All three of these plots had, until 2014, been one big paddock, and it was subdivided. But the people that took on plots 6A and 7A gave it a year. Just proved to be too much for them because of their family commitments and work commitments, and they left it in the right state, about 2 metres high in weeds and nettles. And we only took this on in June of last year, so the growing season was well underway. We put some onions, some beans and some early potatoes in, and we managed to get some potatoes and beans. Onions didn't do very well, but we spent the first few months just getting rid of all the weeds and nettles, and all the central pathway was covered in a big mound of grass. Allowed that to dry, and had a huge fire that lasted 2 weeks, and then we just put in some overwintering onions at the back end of the year, and that's why they look a little bit isolated there. They don't go right down to the path, because until probably August or September all of that area was covered with grass. In the middle of the winter we planted an orchard as well on the third plot, the half plot. We've got about a dozen trees now, apples and plums mainly. We've got a cherry tree as well. And as you can see, both allotments are laid out in quite a conventional way, really. It's too big an area at this stage to be thinking about raised beds with planks. The cost would be a bit prohibitive, I think, at this stage. But I won't rule that out for the future. So that's just a quick look at the allotments from the outside. Take a break now, have a cup of tea, and then we'll take a closer look at the allotment itself and plans for the future. Tea's up. Right, we'll have a quick brew. Welcome back again to the allotment. You can probably just about make out a couple of horses in the distance there, and that's because this is a mixed site. The centre of the site is laid mainly to paddocks, and around the paddocks are about 20 allotments or so. So the allotments are around the edge of the site. We're very lucky having horses and ponies, because obviously that means we've got manure on tap, as it were. Here we've got a lady with 3 horses directly opposite us, and she has a snow shovel and she just scoops up the manure, goes through a gate and pops it in our manure bays, and you don't get much better than that. You can see On the left there at the bottom, we've just emptied one bay to fill up as pots for the coming season's tomatoes in the greenhouse. We've got another bay that's full. It's well rotted enough, but we're going to leave it another year so that we've got some really fine manure for next year. We've also got a standpipe, a water pipe, just outside of our gate, and we run a hose into this allotment and then a separate hose into the adjacent allotment. As you can see, there are no raised beds here, partly because when we started this was just a paddock. We skimmed all the rubbish off the top, turned the soil, and the season was upon us, so we started straight away, and it was a big area to consider erecting beds and what have you. So if I manage to get some decent software in future, I'll upload some pictures of how the site looked last year, because it did look really, really nice. And within 3 months of this being a paddock, of us taking it on, we went from basically a meadow to like a jungle, really, just full of everything you could imagine. Fruit bushes down the sides, brassicas, legumes, potatoes, sweet corn, dahlias at the front of the plot. Looked really, really nice. Also begged and borrowed some paving slabs. The ones in the centre, they were bought off eBay, about 80 for about £50, and the rest we were given. 2 greenhouses on our allotment. The first one, that's an Elite. Bought that off eBay, lucky enough to have my own van, and so I went and collected that, probably for about 1/5 of the price it would cost to buy it new. On the other allotment we have a greenhouse too. It's a little bit bigger, that's a 10 foot by 10 foot. Really dropped on with that one. Had to drive quite a distance to get it, but it cost over £2,000 new. It's a Rhino. Paid £125 for it. So if you've got a van, that's the best way to do it. If not, if you know somebody that has one, talk to them nicely, do a bit of shopping on eBay or Gumtree or Pre-Loved, and you can get yourself a real bargain. Shed was given to us, and as you can see, telltale signs of a break-in there. We've had 2 so far on the site, 1 each year. Crowbar barred the door, even though they probably could have opened it quite easily. So we've had to repair that. Didn't take anything. All of his tools are bought on a local car boot, £5 a piece. I guess they were looking for strimmers, anything electrical, that they could move on quickly and make a quick profit on. Little surprise around the corner. This is a special shed with ensuite facilities. We do have a portaloo on site, but it's actually, if I just show you, you can just see it up there. But we've got to walk all the way around to get to that. It's only about 70 metres away as the crow flies, but it's a 10-minute walk. So bucket in the corner, pipe running through onto the adjacent field, nice and private when you open the door. Fruit cage there, inherited from the last owner. It's been repaired and we're going to cover it with chicken wire. We've already planted about a dozen currant bushes. They're all quite young, so we'll not see much from them for the next few years. Moving on to the second allotment. This is a little bit bigger. Baths were left on the site. They've been filled with spent compost and some soil. The soil still needs to be riddled. Going to use that for carrots hopefully this year. build a bit of a frame around it, put some fleece around to keep the carrot fly out. This is a second allotment. Looks very bleak at the moment, but we've dug it twice. We only took this on in I think about June, the end of June of last year, and it was 2 meters high, and you can see the path, the reddy brown soil that runs along it, and beneath it that was the remains of the big fire that we had. Chopped all the grass down, the weeds, the nettles, allowed it to dry. Fire burned for about 2 weeks, and then we used the ash in the soil to provide a base to bed the path down. Overwintering onions, rhubarb, just put in. That's a plant I brought from home. It was about 7 years old, so I lifted it, cut it into about 6 plants, and then that's a large variety, not certain of the variety. And then the 3 smaller plants in front were on the site. That's a smaller sort of miniature rhubarb, like a champagne variety, supposed to be sweet. Managed to cover this bed with manure. There is a manure dump lower down where some of the paddock owners deposit, the stuff they don't need. But again, that's quite a trek. It's about 100 yards there, 100 yards back, and up a little bit of an incline there. Not ideal at the minute because it's been very wet and cold this last 3 weeks or so. And then the half plot. You live and you learn with an allotment. Had a few disasters, mainly down to rabbits. We lifted all the trailing strawberry plants, the suckers from last year, heaped up the rows, put them in. They all look great. Also around about the same time, planted about a dozen fruit trees. Of course, never thought to put rabbit guards around the trees. A rabbit got in somehow, just about nibbled all the bark off the base of the trees and ate all the strawberry tops. So we hastily put some chicken wire around the trees, painted them with a heal and seal solution called Arbrex, and hopefully they'll survive. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. Put a bean stand in. It's been trenched out, been put in peelings, and as we've dug out the cabbages that we had, chopped the heads, the ones that had blown, we'll put some manure in there as well. So, as I say, it looks pretty bleak, but hopefully by the end of June, early July, it'll be fully in bloom, and hopefully it'll be a productive year. It's been very cold this last 3 weeks up here in Yorkshire. I should add that the site is near Pontefract in Yorkshire. Just as a sign of how cold it is, we've got the broad beans there in modules, onion sets in modules. They've been sat there for about 3 weeks. It's been so cold. The beans are just coming through, but there aren't even any green shoots on the onions. I've got some seeds to plant today, some kohlrabi, which I'll put in modules, some spring onions as well. Yeah, not really made much progress in terms of seed sowing. It's just not warm enough, and most of our seeds are sown straight into the ground rather than into modules. So the soil needs to be warm and workable. This is the bigger greenhouse. It's been a safe haven until now. It's not even been cleaned since we got it. We put it up at the end of last year, but that's one of the jobs left for early spring. It needs to be cleaned with J's fluid and washed down. The same goes for the other greenhouse, and the shed needs a good tidy as well. So hopefully we'll get some better weather over the next couple of weeks. The soil will be workable, and we'll get sowing proper then. Hope you enjoyed the tour. Hope it's not been too boring. It's, let's say, at this time of the year there's not a great deal happening, but hopefully it'll be nice to see the plot develop over the year, and I hope that you visit future uploads, because if it's anything like last year, you know, it'll be a worthwhile exercise. So I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks for calling by.